In this video, let us discuss the fourth unit, that is everything I need to know I learned in the forest. So this was written by Vandana Shiva. Vandana Shiva is an environmentalist and she has written many ecological works. This particular work talks about her ecological journey. She was interested in environment, ecology and biodiversity. So the reason behind her interest was her family background. Her father was a forest conservator and her mother was a peasant woman. She was an agriculturist. And Vandana Shiva's mother used to compose songs and poems on nature and agriculture. When mother was singing all these songs and poems, Vandana Shiva used to listen to them and she used to enjoy the songs about nature. That is how she cultivated the interest about nature. She was born and brought up in the Himalayan regions and her father was working as a forest conservator in the Himalayan forest. Vandana Shiva used to observe both her father and mother, and she also started thinking of becoming conservator. And at the same time, when she was a school going girl, there was a huge protest, there was a huge movement called Chipko movement. And you all know about Chipko movement. Chipko movement was started by Sundarlal Bahuguna. And many women in the Himalayan region came forward and they all protested against massive deforestation activities. There were deforestation activities which were happening in the Himalayan region. Many people were cutting the trees in a huge amount. And it was a unique movement and it was a non-violent movement against the deforestation. The women decided to hug the trees when the woodcutters tried to cut the trees. As a small girl, Vandana Shiva was observing all these activities in her region and she also was taking part in the movement, and she realized that it is very important to preserve the nature. That is how Vandana Shiva started her ecological journey. But once she completed her schooling and college education, she thought of being PhD in Canada. So she decided to go to Canada. But before leaving for Canada, she thought of visiting her favorite forest and stream. Whenever she was free, whenever she was bored, she used to go to her favorite place and she used to enjoy. So before going to Canada, she thought of going there and spending some time there. But once she went there, she was totally disappointed because the forests were gone and the stream which was flowing fully has been reduced to a trickle. She was disappointed with the damage which was being done to the nature, and that is when Vandana Shiva decided not to go to Canada. She decided to become the active and permanent participant in the Chipko movement. She wanted to do something for the nature, so she cancelled the Canada trip. Deforestation activities were happening in some of the regions of Himalayan forest, and Vandana Shiva decided to put her heart and soul to protect environment. She dedicated her entire life for the nature. In one of her paragraphs, she says that whenever she was free, whenever she got vacations, she used to do the Padayatras, giving the awareness about Chipko movement. She used to go to the people and she used to spread the message of Chipko movement. And she used to do the documentation of deforestation activities. She used to take the pics, she used to collect the information about deforestation. That is how she involved in the campaign. She recollects one of her experiences. There was a woman called Bachni Devi in the village Adwani in the Himalayan region. Her husband got the contract of cutting all the trees in that region. But Bachni Devi protested against her own husband, and she went with her friends, means all the women. They went to the forest with lighted lantern, though it was daytime, and they decided to teach what forest is to the forest officials. And they said the true value of the forest is not the timber, is not the money, but the true value of the forest is springs and streams. And they said it is the forest which can give us food, it is the forest which can give us life. And they said that it is not possible for the officials to cut the trees. Vandana Shiva learnt many lessons in the forest. She learnt about unity, compassion, cooperation, biodiversity, harmony. Many lessons she learnt in the forest. And whatever she learnt in the forest, she decided to share her knowledge. So she thought of starting an organization called Navadanya Movement. She started that movement called Navadanya Movement. With this unique movement, she supported the farmers to practice biodiversity, because everywhere there was monoculture. She was when she was protesting in the forests and in the regions of Himalaya. She noticed that all the farmers were practicing monoculture, that is cultivating single crop. But that is not good for the nature. So she thought of supporting, encouraging the farmers to practice biodiversity, means growing different crops, because she realized that biodiversity is the only method which can solve the problem of scarcity of food and nutrition. Because if you go for monoculture, that is cultivating single crop, we will not get enough food. But if we cultivate different crops, we will get nutrition, we will get plenty of food. That is why she started that Navadanya movement. So she interacted with the farmers and she decided to start seed banks in her region. And she collected 630 varieties of rice and 150 varieties of wheat and 100 types of species for the benefit of farmers. And this was going on. She used to go to the farmers' field and she used to explain the importance of biodiversity. She was encouraging them to practice biodiversity. But this was not successful fully, because she was giving only oral awareness. So she thought of starting a farm to demonstrate how to practice biodiversity. So she started Navadanya farm to practice biodiversity. She started this in Doon Valley in the Himalayan region. When she started this farm called Navadanya farm, all the farmers, school students, college students and some students from other countries started visiting her farm. And it was the best example for biodiversity. And there were two important courses which Navadanya farm was offering: A to Z of organic farming and agroecology, and Gandhi and globalization. These are the two courses which are offered in Navadanya farm. She encouraged the farmers to practice organic farming. No chemicals, no fertilizers. Without all these things, they have to grow pure food for the society. And the farmers also realized that it is very important to practice. She changed the mindset of the farmers. The farmers removed the concept of monocultures from their mind. And she says conservation of biodiversity and biodiversity based economies is her life's mission. In her later paragraphs, she talks about the rights of nature on the global stage. As human beings, we all have rights, and we call them as human rights, fundamental rights. But what she argues is that nature also has its own rights. And there are two countries, she came across two countries who recognized the rights of nature in their constitution. One is Ecuador and Bolivia. And taking inspiration from these two countries, the United Nations General Assembly organized a conference on a topic called harmony with nature on a special day, that is Earth Day in 2011. The conference talks about the reconnecting the people with nature, because now the people are separated from nature. It is called eco-apartheid. People are separate and nature is different. Now we see apartheid in society based on color, blacks and whites. But here we can see eco-apartheid. We can see human beings one side and nature on the other side. And in the conference it was discussed that the main reason for this separateness is disharmony with nature. People are not at all maintaining harmony. But once people start loving nature, once people start interacting with nature, so he becomes healthy man, he becomes happy man. In her next paragraph, she talks about earth democracy. She says, if something happens to the man, he goes to the court, police, and democracy will save him. But if something happens to nature, there is no democracy to protect it. She argues that there should be democracy for earth, and such kind of earth democracy is practiced in the Earth University. Earth democracy means freedom for all the species. Not only that, it is the responsibility of the human beings as the members of this family or the society to recognize, respect and protect the rights of the other species like plants and animals. And in her later paragraph, she says that she started Navadanya farm in the forest with the inspiration of Rabindranath Tagore, who started a forest school in West Bengal. Rabindranath Tagore has written an essay called Tapovan. In his essay, he says that the source of Indian civilization has come from forest, not the urban. And he also says that many great ideas were generated in the forest when man was in the company with forest trees. Vandana Shiva also talks about the opinion of Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon says that the main reason for this damage and deforestation is all because of the advancement of science and technology. And she concludes her work by saying that there are many problems in the society, like food problem, nutrition problem, scarcity of water, landslides, deforestation, domination, and all these things are there in society. And the only answer to all these problems is to live our life with forest. We have to learn lessons from forest. We have to practice biodiversity. We have to maintain harmony with nature, and we have to respect, recognize and protect the rights of other species also. That is how we can lead our life happily.